Segue to a little quote that I pulled from a blog a long time ago. So, in 2011, you wrote a blog post called "Sleeping on the Floor," which I thought was pretty funny. And and this is a quote from your post. You said, some say we have no work-life balance at all. I disagree completely. I don't need time to slice everything into perfect proportion. There are times in your life when you can and should work really hard. This is one of them. Don't get me wrong, I don't want folks to be so tired that they do a crappy job, but we can all afford to work more than 8 hours a day. So, I wanted to ask you just how you stay so motivated, how you keep that energy up, and also, more importantly, how you get your team to fall in line with that and to also buy into the mission, because Spiro obviously has a very dedicated team that is small and incredible at what they do, and so it seems like everyone is sort of abiding by this principle. So can you speak a little bit about the work culture and how you've been able to maintain and grow some of those key elements?
Yeah, so first of all, you got to treat everyone like adults, right? You got to just say, you know what, take vacation when you need it, but don't miss the deadline, right? Be here for the important points. I would try to bring it back to, the little child, who may have taken all their gift cards from Christmas or saved up their money, and they've gone to the store and they bought a product of ours, and it totally makes their day. And that smile is priceless. And if you can get the people to really think about, we're not just working in an office, we're impacting kids' lives, we're making them happy. It gets them excited about what they're working on. I think it starts with the hiring process. People who want to put a dent in the world, and they can relate to what we're trying to do, from their excitement about technology and play, and gaming, and toys and gadgets. So they're passionate about what they're doing, and they see that there's a real potential kind of gaining momentum. So I think the challenge for CEOs is not to, tell them, how to do their job, right? If you're down in the trenches and you're telling them how to do their job, they're going to get demotivated. Just tell them what needs to be done, and keep them focused on that goal, and just let them surprise you with their creativity. And I think it kind of comes together. I don't know if there's a magic formula. Just don't. It's not about not paying attention to the details. It's about letting them solve the problems, but giving them the tight constraints. And the beauty about this business we're all in here is, Christmas comes once a year, and that's a deadline. And having those deadlines that aren't created by you, it's created by the external world, is so much more powerful. And it goes back to the product before 12 months. Those external deadlines are much more powerful than Paul said we need this done on March 1st.
And so, is that a way that you are able to sort of guide yourself? Because, in executive positions or in leadership roles, it can often be pretty hard because you don't have people guiding you through or
you do have something guiding. It's called your cash account. And when the cash goes to zero, time's up.
Yeah.
So there's a challenge that you are always trying to create enough progress in the business for either to get profitable or to get to that next funding event. And so it was keeping the momentum going. And that sets kind of these incredible deadlines for you. Okay, we need to accomplish this. We need to achieve this product and market. We need to have this level of sales in order for our investors to kind of back us again. So that kind of pressure is important. And to me, it's always been about making sure the team has all the resources they need to get the job done. So that's primarily having cash in the bank, and the right people, hiring good people when we need to add to the team, and then keeping them focused. And so for me, it's always been, can I make sure they have those resources?
And in terms of setting your own targets, you've been really good at really just building the company step by step, right? Since 2010, there have been a lot of milestones that you've hit, and also just targets that you've set and hit. And so, how do you find that you are able to identify those targets, or do you read business books? Do you read blogs? Where do you get the inspiration for these targets, and how do you set them, and how do you make sure that you're holding yourself accountable as well as everyone else?
Yeah, I don't read a lot of business books. I read a lot of, I like to read science books,
And why is that? I mean, what about science books are helpful for this?
Well, so many of these major scientific breakthroughs are really people challenging the system at the time. And it's so different than what I'm living with, right? I'm not trying to, solve, prime numbers or something like that. We have very practical business objectives that we're trying to achieve. So it's people's passion to solve something that might be an incredible intellectual challenge, and how they accomplish it, and how they were going against the trend at the time. And they're fascinating stories. So it allows, I think there's so much to be learned from other industries or other endeavors, and just to kind of be inspired by that. When I read business books, it's always looking in the rearview mirror, right? And there's never one way to do things. The way I run a company would be completely different than the way you would run a company, and you shouldn't copy me. You should find your own style. And it's like that with every role within the organization. You want to see what other people are doing to perhaps pick and choose what might work for you, but ultimately you're going to have to find your own style. And I find when I read business books, it's like, wow, they got their style. I don't know if that works for me. I want to be inspired to create something different. So I don't know. It's just a quirk I have.
And another question I wanted to ask was about the proliferation of technology in toys, right? So there are a lot of robotics toys that are coming to the market. I mean, I believe there are more microprocessors at this toy convention than ever before. And so, do you find that to be something that hurts Sphero? Does it help? How do you interpret these bigger trends, and what do you see happening in the toy industry right now?
I mean, if you fast forward, 10, 15 years, 20 years, I think every toy will have some connected element. It may be, something that's pretty intertwined with the cloud and the net and your devices, or it may be something that's more, there won't be an instruction manual. That's how you do it, using augmented reality or something, even if it's a classic board game. I think, technology's here to stay. It's going to become more pervasive throughout all of our lives. As I look at what's happening in the industry, there's a couple of things. You're seeing technology kind of being thrown in for technology's sake, and that's not going to resonate with the consumer or the kids. The kids are, what's your point of comparison there, right? It's an incredibly, 200 people developing an amazing game for a tablet with incredibly rich graphics that took them years to develop, versus something that, 3 LEDs and a microprocessor in a toy store isn't going to capture the kid's imagination. So the bar is pretty high when it comes to putting technology into toys. And I think the differentiator is it's going to come largely on the software or the uniqueness of the experience that's really going to be immersive to the child and to the adult. Because I firmly believe that, like when I was a kid, my parents would say, "Go out and play," but now I think parents play with their kids, right? So the toys and the play experiences have to really be more immersive than just totally targeted towards the 6-year-old girl or the 6-year-old boy.
And what about ease of use and barrier to entry? A lot of these, especially with coding, right? I mean, there's a lot of toys that are just difficult to figure out. I mean, I think parents struggle to figure these things out, maybe more so than kids in a lot of occasions. So, what have you learned, I guess, with the experience of Sphero, and what were some of the things that you've learned with, especially in the EU space that either made things very accessible for people or were a great obstacle in the system?
Yeah, so, and I think it's like this with the product overall, and as you were saying that, I was thinking about some of our challenges, but the product is just a small component of it, right? It's everything else surrounding it, from the packaging to the out-of-box experience, to the software, to the customer service, to how it's presented in the store, to the support that you have. If it's EDU, what's the price point for the, can every kid in the classroom have a robot? How good is the software to program it? Is there community for kids to share and brag about their creation? How long does it take the teacher to set up and tear down? It's just focusing on all those little details that really make the difference between a product and a system and an experience. And that's what we're really trying to do on the EDU side is, we're building out we spent millions of dollars on our software with the hope that it's going to grow over time. And, now we have 5,000, 6,000 schools, 500,000 kids using robots on a daily basis in classrooms. But it's because we're trying to build that community. And it's not like we're changing the hardware on a daily basis. We're changing the software. We're getting more people involved. We're sharing those lessons.
And what has the response been from some of these schools? I mean, are they...
It's been awesome. I mean, for a teacher to buy a $100 robot that's indestructible, they can throw in the water, it lasts 45 minutes, it's got rich programming, it has, multiple levels from grades, age, second grade all the way up through college. Hundreds of examples of activities shared by other teachers. It's been really positive, but what people don't realize about education, I shared this with you outside, is someone told me, education is like an oak tree, right? Grows very slowly, takes a lot of nourishing and care, but over the years, it will become something substantial. So our oak tree is like this tall now. Yeah. But retail and toys, it's like bamboo, right? It just grows a foot a day, but then, Panda comes by and eats all the bamboo, and then, you got to have another, grow another bamboo bush, right? It's a much faster turning cycle. Part of the reason why we got into EDU was we had to write a lot of software just to turn the Sphero blue. And so we created this simple scripting language so that the developers can do it and then embed it inside of the software. And we said, this scripting language is so cool, why don't we just open it up to everyone else and make it an app? And that kind of kicked off our EDU. And then our retail side said, what do you do with all the returns? Because it's not like you'll never get a return, right? And most of the returns we all get as toy guys is they're in great shape. There's nothing wrong with the product. We said, well, it's going to cost us a lot to send it back, repackage it, refurbish it, and try to sell it as new again. So we said, why don't we sell it to schools at a discount? But and then it just took off. I was like, if I can get a $130 robot for $80 refurbished, I'll take a dozen. So we started selling 12 packs, and it's like buying a carton of eggs. It's a carton of Spheros, and so it turned into a great solution, and then it's become core to our business now, and we're really nourishing it.
Well, awesome. I don't want to take up all our time. I want to make sure that I give everyone a chance to ask questions here. So I think now would be a good time to open it up. Are there any questions out there? In the blazer there.
Hi, I'm Verena from Fox and Sheep. We do apps for kids. I have a question. Sometimes hybrid products like yours are marketing-wise stuck between the worlds. So if you have the app on the App Store, then the app doesn't work without the physical robot. So it will not be easy to market the app in the App Store. And for the toy sellers, it's difficult because it's a digital product and they don't really get it. And so my feeling is, how do you get up in the App Store and get good reviews there, although people have to go and buy the product first? What's your take on that?
So for anyone that didn't hear the question, I think I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. It's how can you get more attention on your app in the App Store? And which world do you belong?
So for those of us making connected toys, it's actually fascinating because you have an advantage. We don't have to compete in the App Store for visibility, right? We have to compete on the shelf or in the teacher's buying process, right? Because they will find the app. They get the product, they need the app. You can't use it without the app. So we've never really focused on getting promotion within the app stores. we've always focused on driving attention around the physical robot. And that's turned out pretty well. Like on Christmas Day, we're like, you know, one of the top apps, you know, because you got a million kids turning on their whatever robots. But yeah, we're not. The thing is we have a very steady upload of content and changing the apps. So, but what is interesting, what you don't realize, is your rating on your App Store app is essentially the rating on your physical product, right? So if someone gives you a 1-star on the app, it's like a 1-star on your product, and you have the best hardware in the world. So they're really tied together. So getting the app right is really, really important. And if you want to talk about the review process, I can go on for about 7 hours about what's broken about that. But anyhow.
Cool. Next question, again in the front, yeah.
Janice Marconi. Yeah, I am related to Marconi, but low in the DNA food chain. I see that like Ollie and BB-8, they relate to their environment, but do they communicate with each other? Does Dark Side Ollie communicate with another Dark Side Ollie? You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
how would that enrich the narrative?
So the question was, do the toys talk to each other? Technically, they can. One of the challenges you face when you build these types of products is you have all of these great ideas, but you only have so much resources to do it, and you have to kind of pick those features. So what we realized early on is, yes, we can make all these talk to each other, and we have plenty of prototypes that are pretty fun. But we realized the likelihood of having 5 Ollies being in the same room at the same time is like trade shows, and then like the richest kids in the world, right? And so we were really focusing more on. We've come up with some features where you're more likely to have 2 kids with smart devices and one robot, and focusing on that interaction versus making the multiple robots together. We'll probably start doing some of that. It's interesting when you talk about licensed products, right? They may not want, BB-8 to recognize, another toy, because BB-8 is in Star Wars world, and there's no Ollies in Star Wars yet. So it's interesting, and so some of it is technical, some of it is prioritization, but we will get there eventually. But you need a high density. And it would be really neat if there was a standard across all the connected toys of a communication channel where we could all, because we're not going to make every connected toy in the world, right? There's going to be a gazillion of them. So it'd be really cool if there was a way that, a toy protocol that everyone could embrace, so that there would be some mode of communication, so we can come up with some play, because that's how kids play, right? They're going to take whatever they want out of their toy box and play and turn on an app, and wouldn't it be great if that app worked with 20 different toys and all the toys could interact. We'll get there someday. It's a little early. It's a little early for that.
Great. How about the gentleman in the back there?
Quick question. We're a high-tech company that does IoT and embedded device work, and I want to contrast, I'd like to get your opinion on contrasting consumer electronic market with the toy market, because I think companies like you and 3DR, they're not just strictly toy companies, and they do kind of transcend into consumer electronics. I think they're really different, and it'd be really neat to hear kind of what those differences are.
Yeah, that's a great. So the question is what do you see different between the consumer electronics market and the toy market? Because we kind of live in both worlds. So we, if you said, are you a toy or are you consumer electronics? And I had to pick. Well, I'd go where we spend the money, which is we spend money like we're a consumer electronic, right? Our big show is the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas every year, and this is a big show for us, but it's not nearly as big. And the reason is we're at a price point now where you have a certain expectation of quality and functionality. And typically you see that in the higher echelons. And if you talk to the retailers, even a few years ago, it's like, you got a $130 toy? I don't know where to put you. But if you talk to someone in consumer electronics, you go, oh yeah, I can put you between the $500 here and the $200 thing here. So there's a place for us to live. We had to figure out where to live on the shelf. The beauty with BB-8 is it created a whole section, and then we were the app-controlled toy, and lots and lots of units sold, and now kids understand what app-controlled toys are. So hopefully in the future, the toy industry will move up market with some of these higher-end electronics and really start promoting them. But historically, the consumer electronics buyers and retailers really understood it and would invest and understand the sales cycle and get behind it. So we live in both worlds. It's kind of interesting. But I think the tech industry, has always been driven by cool gadgets, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
from my
electronics.
perspective-
Yeah, the consumer electronics. It's your job, right?
Yeah.
You're right about that. So you always have a welcome ear there, where I think the toy buyers historically, not so much anymore, but historically have always been a little cautious when it came to expensive tech toys, because they got to take a big bet on inventory, right? That's a lot of money to spend.
Yeah, and if I can even add to that, I feel like the proliferation of smartphones has probably had a major effect on that as well. A lot of kids want $500 to $700 smartphones,
Yeah.
and so by comparison, a formerly expensive toy is probably not as expensive in a parent's view. But anyways, another question up front here. If you could get a mic. Thanks for doing that.
First of all, thank you. A really wonderful discussion. I am curious, though. Obviously, one of Sphero's missions, it says so in the bio, is to create a situation where you'd have robots in every household. And I think a lot of the conversation we're having right now is really directed towards this issue of price point and the challenges of, as sort of the toy industry changes and as the sense of what types of toys are possible, how we get toys like the ones that Sphero are creating into households that cannot afford the $130 app. The toy industry might change towards high-end scale, but ultimately the question is, will the average American household's income change to enable these types of toys to be in every household? So I'm curious ultimately about how Sphero deals with this challenge of creating these really wonderful toys that ideally every kid would be able to play with, but ultimately the cost of developing the software, the cost of manufacture, the challenge to retail makes it a challenge to actually enable all kids to be able to sort of play with them.
So the question, just to repeat it, is, tell me if I got it wrong, is how do you deal with the fact that the connected toys are more expensive and aren't necessarily affordable by all households? And what are we doing to kind of, how are we thinking about it? The iPhone's very expensive, but somehow it's made its way into a mass market. It didn't happen on day one. On day one, it was the diehard fans standing in line, paying 3x over, on eBay for an iPhone 1. My view is focus on the experience, be cautious of the cost. We don't want to build a $5,000 BB-8. We thought about it, but we'd sell 10 of them, right? Maybe more than 10, but the key is really designing for that experience, and then and letting time and competition solve the other part of it, right? There will be people who will figure out how to make a slightly reduced version for less money and present it to the market differently. And so you got to focus on that innovation. And it's hard to innovate on the cycle of I'm trying to do this for $20, right? It becomes such a crippling restraint on the creativity that if you don't invest enough in the software, if you don't invest in the right technology or the sensors. So we're not constraining ourselves to the future like that. We see the power of having $100 robots, $150 robots, $200 robots, maybe even all the way up to $1,000 at some point in time. But as you go up in price, it's got to do a lot more, and it's got to And for us, a lot more is becoming more part of the family experience than it is just, for a single, one, really encapsulating one play experience. But I think competition and time will solve that. I mean, I'll just share with you an example. We did 2 versions of Sphero. The cost difference for us to make them between version 1 and version 2, we kept the retail price the same, was we took almost 50% of the cost out, and we doubled the capabilities of it. It was more stable, it was faster, it was more durable, and it was just so much of costing is just more engineering. So enough time and enough engineers, you can lower the price. But if you want to get product out there fast and you want to be innovative, you pay for that with more expensive components and software. But time and competition will fix that.
Great, I think we have another question. Yeah.
Hi, Shai Salmon of KidSafe. We're actually doing a panel tomorrow on security of connected devices.
Okay.
So during the lunch hour. So great discussion, appreciate it. My question is actually not related to that. I'm wondering, we work with, KidSafe works with a lot of connected toy makers and devices. And I wonder, once you buy the product and you take it home and you start playing with it, how do you keep kids engaged to continuously play with it? Because I find having 5 kids of my own, they play with it once, twice, and then done with it.
So this is a fabulous discussion. How much engagement is enough? So I make this analogy. Think about how many of you have been to Disneyland or Disney World? Just like everybody, right? The Walt Disney Company's made some good money. That experience is, like $100 plus a person going in the door. It maybe is 5 hours of your life, right? Between the time parking, standing in line, getting all the stuff, and you go home and just, well, we just blew $500 for the whole family. But it is a memory that you create for the rest of your life. I think back to my own childhood, and I have toys that I played with for a lot, hours and hours and hours. And I also have toys that I probably didn't have that many hours of play, but they're burned in my memory as transformative play experiences. I think we have 2 types of things we're looking for. We're looking for the quality of the play experience. Can you create an experience for the child that will fundamentally alter the way they look at the world and kind of inspire their imagination? It may not captivate them for the same amount of time of them playing Call of Duty, right? But it can deliver a real, change in how they view the world. And I think that's part of what our challenges as connected players. We're trying to kind of really make them think differently. So that's why putting robots in classrooms is huge, and using that as a high-quality teaching experience, practical, hands-on. But then also engagement. The way you get engagement is with constant content, so updating the content through software updates. We've seen, and story, I mentioned it earlier. If you start adding story elements to it, you can bring the kids back over time, especially since you have an app on their device now. So creating high-quality experiences, constantly creating new content, which is a challenge from the economic model, right, of connected play, because you've already made your sale, you're not making any more money on the new content, yet you're still investing in putting new software into the kids' hands. And once you put a toy out there, every time a new software on the phone comes out, you have to redo your app. So you may put a toy out there and you're not selling it in the market anymore, but you're still supporting it with an app for 5 years afterwards, which is another challenge. But the thing is it's always about continuing on that story and that experience. Or if it's an open-ended play experience like Sphero, is giving them enough tools to keep it going alive. But understand, all of these robotic devices, they have a physical life. I mean, a couple hundred hours of play, and those motors are dead or the batteries are dead. So you've got to have that high quality impact up front, so it's memorable and they get their value in that initial period of play. And that's really what we want to make sure, that those first couple of months are just incredible.
Great, and I think we had one more question from this gentleman in
Okay.
the black.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Jeff Sisson. I'm with Liberty Science Center in Jersey City. And my question is, do you view yourself as living in the educational space, or is your goal to be the next Frisbee of popular culture?
So I see ourselves as as an entertainment company. We're there to make people happy, and we're doing it with robotics. So we're trying to allow kids to either create stories or tell stories or get a story delivered to them. And that's even true in the educational space. What is the story? Why does this robot need to drive in a triangle? What am I trying to accomplish? I think toys are, we say play is a powerful teacher, right? It's the same concept. We want to bring kids into that storytelling mode and become part of it. And so I see ourselves as we have to be fun first, right? We have to be entertaining. Education should be fun, and so that's why we're there.
Well, yeah, I think that's a great note to end on. We actually are just a little over time, at least according to our countdown timer.
Great.
But anyways, I'd love to just thank Mr. Paul Berberian for stopping by. If you'd all join me in giving him a round of applause. Hugely exciting for all of us, and we all appreciate your time very much. And everyone, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You guys want to stay